Good evening, my foreign friends. I am Lino. Let me start with a simple question. What do you think is the most important rule for surviving in a Chinese workplace? Working hard? Being talented? Following the rules? No. In many cases, the most important rule is much simpler. Make sure the powerful people are happy. Today, I want to tell you some real stories from my job in a Chinese state-owned company. And through these stories, you might start to understand why so many Chinese workers look exhausted all the time. Not just physically exhausted, mentally exhausted. I work for a large Chinese state-owned enterprise. I won't say the name, but it's one of those companies almost every Chinese person knows. But I'm not at the headquarters. I'm in one of its subsidiaries. Think of it like an American saying, "I work for Walmart." That doesn't necessarily mean they work at Walmart's corporate office. They might just be working at a local store. About 2 years ago, our company launched a new project. We built an internal platform to manage employee welfare programs for different departments and partner organizations. Things like distributing rice, cooking oil, mooncakes during Mid-Autumn Festival, or rice dumplings during the Dragon Boat Festival. In theory, it sounds simple. In reality, it's quite complicated. Different organizations have different benefit programs, different suppliers, different rules. You can imagine it like a small version of Amazon, but only for internal employees. And I'm the project manager responsible for the whole system. So my job involves designing rules. What products are offered, when employees can redeem them, how points are used, how long those points remain valid. On paper, everything is very clear. But here's the funny part. Once the system started running, I discovered something surprising. Almost nobody follows the rules. Why? Because many of our customers are actually our superiors. So the relationship isn't just business. It's also hierarchy. And hierarchy changes everything. Let me give you an example. Suppose someone's benefit points expire. According to the rules, once the deadline passes, the points are gone. Simple. You had months to use them. But in reality, I might get a call like this. "Hey, could you help us restore those points?" Or sometimes a leader complains about the products. These items aren't good enough. Even though these benefits are supposed to be standardized for everyone, suddenly you're asked to customize a completely different product, just for one person. Or someone might say, "My family isn't home this week. Can you ask the supplier to delay the delivery?" Small requests, but every single one of them breaks the rules. And refusing them is difficult, because these people are often leaders from higher-level organizations. So you slowly realize something strange. You spend months creating rules, but you spend even more time creating exceptions. And that's when I began to understand something about the Chinese workplace. In many systems, rules are supposed to protect fairness. But in some environments, rules exist mainly for ordinary people. Powerful people operate on a different system. Let me tell you a real story. Once we uploaded a product to our platform. The product image wasn't the newest version. The difference was tiny. Honestly, you wouldn't notice it unless you looked very closely. But unfortunately, someone noticed. And unfortunately, that person was a leader from a higher-level company. Suddenly, the issue became very serious. Our company held multiple meetings about this problem. Not normal meetings. The kind where everyone sits in a room for hours while leaders talk about responsibility and discipline. One meeting lasted the entire morning. Nobody did any real work that day. Everyone just sat there listening and taking notes. Was the problem really that big? Of course not. But the company needed to show something important. Respect for power. Because inside the system, everyone keeps an invisible ranking in their head. Who is important? Who is ordinary? Who is connected to whom? Nobody writes this down. But everyone knows. If that same issue had been reported by a normal employee through customer service, I guarantee nothing would have happened. The issue would simply disappear. So in an environment like this, innovation becomes very dangerous. Because innovation means taking risks. And risks might offend someone. Offending a normal employee is fine. But offending a leader? That can become a political problem. So what becomes the number one priority for workers? Not creativity, not efficiency. The number one priority is, don't make mistakes, especially not in front of powerful people. Years ago, I watched a documentary called American Factory. It shows Chinese and American workers working together in the same factory. The contrast is fascinating. Chinese workers tend to be extremely obedient to their bosses. American workers are more likely to challenge management or speak up about their rights. Some people say Americans are lazy or undisciplined. But you could also look at it differently. Chinese workers often appear obedient because the system trains them to survive that way. This mentality isn't something people are born with. It's something the environment slowly shapes. When you arrive at work in the morning, the first thing you think about isn't your tasks. Instead, you think, which leader might contact me today? Which leader's assistant might request a special arrangement? What unexpected situation might appear? The time you spend actually improving systems or analyzing data might be less than half of your working hours. Sometimes I joke with my colleagues. We say we're not running a welfare platform. We're running a privilege platform. Here's another real story. When we launched our points redemption system, the rules were clear. Points expire after 6 months. But one day, a leader's assistant contacted me. She said her boss's points were about to expire and asked if we could extend the deadline. According to the rules, I should have refused. Instead, she added me to a group chat. Inside the chat were my company's top executive and a vice president from their company. And the interesting thing was this: nobody said anything, because nobody wants to leave evidence. This is how many things work in China. Nobody directly tells you what to do. You're expected to understand. So I stayed up late that night modifying the system and creating a special extension just for that leader. And once that happened, the news spread quickly. Soon other leaders' assistants contacted me too. They all wanted the same special treatment. Eventually we had to change the rule for everyone. The 6-month expiration became 12 months. All the original rules we carefully designed were thrown away. Was that innovation? Not really. It was innovation forced by power. And the strange part? Nobody thought anything was wrong. People simply said, "This is normal." If a normal employee's points expire, customer service will just reply, "Sorry, the rules are the rules." So the real issue isn't the rules themselves. The real issue is who gets to bend them. Over time, our entire team developed a habit. Before doing anything, we first look at the person involved. For normal employees, we try to reduce costs. For leaders, everything must be perfect. Better packaging, faster delivery, better products. Even suppliers learned the system. They created VIP channels specifically for leaders. Once, at midnight, a supplier called me. A certain leader suddenly wanted to change his order to a more expensive gift box. I told them the purchasing deadline had already passed. The supplier replied, "It's okay. I already talked to your leader." The next morning, I received a message from my boss. "Please cooperate." So what do you think my real performance evaluation depends on? Not platform revenue, not user satisfaction. My real KPI is simple: leader satisfaction. Over time, I began to understand something. The reason many Chinese workers feel exhausted isn't just long hours. It's the psychological pressure of living with two systems at the same time. One system is the official rules. The other system is the unwritten rules. During meetings, people talk about innovation and high-quality development. But after the meeting, you modify plans to accommodate power. Eventually, people develop two personalities. With ordinary employees, you talk about principles. With leaders, you talk about flexibility. On social media, everyone posts positive messages about loving their company. But privately, everyone complains. Now, to be fair, I'm not saying state-owned companies are completely bad. They provide stability. Salaries arrive on time. Social insurance is paid. For many families in China, it's still considered a respectable job. But when I look at colleagues who joined at the same time as me, very few are still motivated. Some left to become civil servants. Some completely gave up and just do the minimum. The rest of us slowly become something else. Experts in serving privilege. Recently, I watched American Factory again. This time it felt different. In the film, American workers argue with their bosses. They demand rights. They even go on strike. In China, a single sentence from a leader can keep you working until 2 in the morning. And you still have to smile and say, "No problem." It's not that we don't want equality. It's that the soil for equality never really existed. But I'm not completely pessimistic. In many ways, people are just adapting to the system they live in. Personally, I'm also thinking about my future. Maybe one day I will leave. Not because I believe another country is perfect, but because I want to live in a place where something simple is true. Rules matter more than people. Even if life is harder, at least the logic would be clear. But I'm curious about something. For those of you watching outside China, do you think workplaces in your country are really different? Or do powerful people bend the rules everywhere? Let me know what you think in the comments. I'd really like to hear your perspective.